How does the world's most elite military fail? Think about this. An infinite budget, the most advanced technology on the planet, force that feared no human enemy, yet they were defeated by a ghost, an enemy they could not even see. How exactly does a superpower lose everything in one night? The answer lies deep in the Iranian desert. The year is 1980. The mission is Operation Eagle Claw. It is pitch black outside. 8 massive RH-53D Sea Stallion helicopters cut the air. These are not ordinary machines. They are the peak of naval aviation. Inside, the legendary Delta Force is ready for combat. These men are the best of the best. They are highly trained. They are perfectly equipped. Their objective is simple but dangerous. They must rescue 52 American hostages in Tehran. Failure was not an option for them. Success seemed almost certain on paper. The US military spent months planning every move. They accounted for every possible threat. But then, the horizon simply vanished. A massive rolling wall of dust appeared. They call it the Habub. This was not just a simple storm. It was a brutal 1,000-foot wall of static. It was raw nature versus American steel. The high-tech sensors began to scream. The engines started to choke on the air. The air became thick like soup. In seconds, the elite pilots were flying blind. They were trapped in a void of sand. Why did the giant fall so fast? How did sand defeat a billion-dollar mission? Was it a lack of planning, or was the mission doomed from the start? The world watched in total shock. A superpower was brought to its knees by dust. It was a crushing blow to American pride. But here is the real question. How did they even get into this position? How was the operation designed to work? To understand the chaos, we must see the plan. We must look at the perfect strategy first. How was this rescue supposed to go? Let's break down the layers of the operation. Let's look at the logic behind the solution. The US military had a perfect plan. It was called Operation Eagle Claw. Every single detail was calculated. Every possible risk was mapped out. How do you pull off a massive raid? The Pentagon broke it down into 5 stages. We can visualize this on a diorama. Imagine a giant carrier made of corrugated cardboard. This is the USS Nimitz. It sits on a sea of crumpled craft paper. The paper ripples like deep ocean waves. Step 1 was the launch. The mission began on this cardboard giant. It carried a fleet of 8 helicopters. These are the RH-53D Sea Stallion models. Look at the texture of the material. You can see the rough cut edges. You can see the visible joints. These machines were the workhorses of the Navy. They were massive and incredibly powerful. They were designed for the toughest naval jobs. Step 2 was the secret approach. The pilots had to fly extremely low. They had to stay under Iranian radar. Imagine a thin neon yarn. This yarn represents the radar signal. It stretches across the Papercraft landscape. The helicopters must stay below this line. They flew through the dark for hours. They traveled over 600 miles. Step 3 was the rendezvous. This was a place called Desert 1. It was a remote strip of sand. On our map, this is brown vellum. It is dusty and textured. Here the helicopters would meet the planes. These are the C-130 Hercules transport aircraft. They are made of layered gray cardstock. These planes carried the vital fuel. They also carried the elite Delta Force. These are faceless wooden mannequins. You can see the hinges on their joints. Step 4 was the primary strike. The team would move toward Tehran. They would storm the massive embassy walls. They would secure 52 American hostages. Step 5 was the final extraction. Everyone would fly to a safe base. The plan looked flawless on paper. The logic was cold and sound. The hardware was the world's best. The C-130 is a flying fortress. It can land on raw dirt. It can carry massive, heavy loads. The RH-53D is a mechanical beast. It lifts heavy equipment across oceans. These 2 stars of technology were coordinated. They performed a mid-desert refueling dance. It was a masterpiece of logistics. You feel a sense of total confidence. The American war machine was ready. Order was finally established. Success felt like a matter of time. But what happens when machines fail? What if the desert fights back? Imagine a $1 million engine. It is a marvel of engineering. Now imagine a single grain of sand. This is the what-if nightmare. The Iranian desert hides a monster. They call this monster the Habub. It is not just a wind. We can show this with vellum. Imagine thick, translucent layers of paper. They swirl and spin in the air. This is a wall of dust. It is a wall of static electricity. How does this affect a helicopter? The sand hits the fast rotor blades. This creates a strange green light. This is called St. Elmo's fire. We can use glowing neon yarn here. The light spins in a circle. It looks beautiful, but it is deadly. The fine dust enters the intake. It clogs the delicate cooling veins. The hydraulic fluid starts to overheat. This is the mechanical betrayal. The RH-53D was built for the sea. It was not built for dust. The pilots were flying in a void. They could not see their hands. The high-tech sensors started to fail. The cockpit became a cage of alarms. Helicopter number 6 was the first. A blade inspection light flickered on. This light indicates a structural crack. The pilot feared a total collapse. He landed in the paper dunes. He decided to stay behind. Now there were only 7 birds. Then, helicopter number 5 had trouble. The hydraulic system was screaming. The pressure was dropping fast. The pilot could not risk a crash. He turned around in the dust. He flew back to the carrier. Now there were only 6 birds. This was the absolute minimum number. The mission was on the edge. The tension was thick like glue. The pilots were breathing dust. Can the mission survive with 6? The math was getting very dangerous. The rescue dream was slowly fading. We can see the vellum swirling. The brown paper covers the scene. The wooden mannequins wait in silence. The cardboard engines are choking. The sand is winning the war. Every second feels like an hour. The mission clock is ticking down. Then came the total crushing collapse. This was the tragedy at Desert 1. The scene was pure, dark chaos. The visibility was exactly 0. Dust blocked every beam of light. There was a failure in communication. The Navy pilots were completely exhausted. The Air Force controllers were struggling. The Marine crews were on alert. Everyone was trapped in sand. One helicopter needed to move. This was an RH-53D Sea Stallion. It had to clear the path. The pilot lifted into the haze. He lost his sense of balance. He could not tell up from down. He drifted slowly to the side. Below him sat an EC-130 plane. This plane was a time bomb. It held thousands of gallons of fuel. It was filled with Delta soldiers. The helicopter blades sliced the plane. The impact was sudden and brutal. The destruction happened in a second. A massive fireball lit the night. We can use red shredded silk. The silk explodes from the models. The explosion was truly devastating. It was seen for many miles. The heat was completely unbearable. Metal melted like thin wax. 8 American service members died instantly. The mission was no longer a rescue. It was a massive massacre. The order was given to retreat. The elite Delta Force had to run. They left their brothers behind. They left secret, classified documents. They left burning wrecks in sand. The superpower was fleeing the dark. The nation's pride was crushed. The perfect plan was gone. Only fire and smoke remained. How did it end like this? The world wanted the truth. We must look at the mechanics. We must look at the arrogance. Why did the sensors fail? Why was the weather ignored? The Papercraft models are burning. The red yarn represents the fire. The wooden dolls are abandoned. The mission is a total loss. The desert is silent again. The Habub has moved on. The cost was 8 lives. The cost was American honor. To build a 500-word section, we must zoom in further. Let's look at the engine's core. The T-64G413 turboshaft engine is a beast. It produces almost 4,000 horsepower, but it has a fatal flaw. The air intake is a vacuum. It sucks in the desert air. In a Habub, the air is sand. The sand is like liquid sandpaper. It grinds the compressor blades down. The blades lose their sharp edge. The engine loses its vital lift. This is not a sudden death. It is a slow, agonizing choke. The pilots see the gauges drop. They see the needle hit red. They feel the vibration in the floor. The cardboard model begins to shake. We can see the joints vibrating. This is the terror of flight. You are miles from help. You are over enemy territory. Your only lifeline is failing. The sand is inside the electronics. It is inside the radio sets. The simple radio whispers become static. The high-tech bubble is popping. The American dream is a diorama. It is made of fragile materials. It is held together by glue, and the desert heat melts glue. The mission was a house of cards. The Habub was the final breath. We see the layers of vellum. They cover the cardboard machines. The wooden men are frozen. They wait for a signal. But the signal never comes. The neon yarn is cut. The AIS signal is spoofed. The ghosts of the desert win. The rust on the steel is real. The wrinkles in the craft paper. This is the reality of war. It is not a digital simulation. It is a physical struggle. It is a battle of materials. And in 1980, the materials failed. The US military learned a lesson. They learned that nature is king. They learned that sand is lethal. The fallout would last for years. The desert night was just beginning. It is a strange and brutal paradox. A billion-dollar war machine fails. It falls to $0 desert sand. We spend years building missiles. We spend billions on stealth radar, but we ignore the common dirt. Technology has a very clear limit. The environment is always the judge. Nature does not care about budgets. It does not care about prestige. A single grain of sand is enough. It can stop a global superpower. This is the big lesson. We fear the high-tech enemy weapons, but the environment is more dangerous. Unexpected failures are the true killers. They happen when we feel safe. Arrogance is a silent, heavy poison. It blinds the eyes of leaders. It clogs the engines of war. We must respect the physical world. Think about the cost of pride. We build titanium and steel walls, but we forget the air we breathe. We forget the ground we walk on. The smallest thing can destroy everything. How many millions were wasted here? How many lives were changed forever? The answer is buried in sand. Now look at the Iranian perspective. To them, this was a miracle. The desert became a holy fortress. They called it the Tabas event. The sand was their political shield. They claimed it was divine power. They said the sand was God's soldier. The wreckage was used for propaganda. It built a powerful national legend. It made the desert seem invincible. The geography of Iran is rugged. It is a graveyard for invaders. The mountains and deserts are walls. You cannot fight a vast landscape. You cannot bomb a moving sandstorm. This failure changed the entire world. It gave a new regime legitimacy. It made the desert seem sacred. It was a victory without shooting. The sand did the fighting alone. The superpower was defeated by dust. This is the reality of geography. This diorama of defeat was real. The wooden mannequins were left behind. The cardboard helicopters were burned. The brown vellum sand was victorious. It proved that technology has masters. It proved that nature is one. We see the rust and dust. They are the winners of 1980. The desert remains a silent guardian. It waits for the next intruder. It watches from the mountain peaks. It hides in the valley floors. It is a battle of philosophies. One side has digital control. The other has raw human survival. And in the desert, survival won. The ghosts of Tabas still haunt. They remind us of our limits. They remind us of the sand. Eagle Claw changed the US forever. It was a dark, painful lesson. But from the fire, something grew. It led to the birth of SOCOM. Special operations were completely reborn. They were redesigned for the future. Elite units became more integrated. They learned to work together better. They learned to respect the environment. They learned to plan for nature. The helicopters are still out there. They sit in the Iranian dust. They are silent, rusted iron reminders. They tell a story of failure. They are monuments of a mistake. They are ghosts of the past. Will history repeat itself tonight? Is technology still vulnerable to nature? The world is always changing fast, but the sand remains the same. The wind still blows hard. We hope this deep dive helped. We want to bring you truth. We want to show the mechanics. This video was created from scratch. Our small team uses real data. Everything you see is human-made. We use real paper and wood. We do not use digital shortcuts. We believe in the physical craft. We force the materials to speak. We use cardboard and vellum. This ensures the highest possible accuracy. We thank you for your time. The invisible war of materials continues. History is a cycle of events. We must learn from the past. We must avoid the same trap. Protect your own personal data today. Use the special link provided below. Get 60% off your plan. Take control of your digital life. Your data is your privacy. Do not let brokers take it. History is always watching us now, and nature is always waiting nearby. Thank you for watching our story. The war of ghosts is real. The survivor is the silent one. We will see you next time.